Shivington might have been quoted as saying, "Nits make lice," but he is certainly not the first one to make such an observation, as it is an observable fact. If you have read the account of Wooden Leg, a warrior of the Cheyenne tribe that fought against Custer at Etowah, he dispassionately noted killing an enemy child of the Cheyenne tribe for the reason in question.
It was my junior year of high school. I was playing my first campaign of Dungeons & Dragons. To my right sat Byron Ross, playing a stone elemental with an igneous body latent with runes. His shell bespoke a mortal long past, a legendary wizard who had trapped himself in a sedimentary shell of stone. And to my left sat Noah Hinson, playing a monk who seldom knew the world he was getting into. His name was Jojo Siwa. It was JoJo Star Siwa, actually. The star was mandatory. Although I was confused by the rules of the game, I had spent the entire week studying up on 5th edition. It was really kind of sad because I wanted so desperately to have this group of friends I stuck to. Every night went into figuring those mechanics out and memorizing them. And of course, I didn't, but I always became the newbie with the handbook, the one always checking the mechanics for what I could and couldn't do. It's a deadly combo of background and class. The neophyte opportunist. Isn't that funny, how so many habits of new players can be codified like classes, that our patterns are so fundamental that they become symbols? In a way, the characters we play, through class and standing, are meant to be the very mirrors which our world is projected through. What are tabletop RPGs but a thought experiment? What are campaigns but our moral dilemmas if the world was a spell away from reality? It's my sophomore year of college, and for my big pet project this year, I wanted to create my own tabletop setting. Furthermore, I wanted to make an entire tabletop RPG system unique to a contemporary fantasy setting. I wouldn't exactly say I'm a hardcore pen and paper master, but fantasy and science fiction are typically the genres associated with role-playing games, at least as far as I can gather. And whether it be swords and spells, or sabers and starships, a lot of role-playing games are rooted in either the past or the future, but one of the present. My main inspiration, of course, was the game Like a Dragon. Its application of fantasy roles in an otherwise modern setting, with the occasional hint of high-tech and mechanica, was something I really took a shining to. It was that mesh of past, present, and future that really spoke to me, you know? Tackling modern problems with past means and futuristic flourishes. And also, I want to kiss Ichiban Kasuga on the mouth. Anyways, it was that mesh of time and place that I wanted to go into this project with. The name of this project? Project Newark. I quickly realized how hard it was to make an RPG. Yeah, I know, bold title, but I'm serious. Has any video essay led you to believe that it's easy? No? Shit. Making games doesn't necessarily have to be complicated, but it's always difficult. And that's the point. It's not difficult because it just happens to be. It has to be difficult. Here's my theory. In the way of creation, the challenge of making something is proportional to the challenge the piece provides, intrinsic or extrinsic, inside or outside. Challenges aren't just exclusive to the art of creation either. It's the difficulty of the creator. Polish painter Zdzisław Beksinski, for instance, was born in Poland shortly before it would be occupied by Nazi Germany. A lot of the personal nightmares of war, famine, and occupation are channeled through his works. With sovereign craftsmanship and saccharine horror, his abyssal human things are brought to life through the lens of his own hardships. Artistic mediums, after all, are a channel between the artist and their audience. Furthermore, they're a conversation. What ideas are communicated through the work? What dreams of chronic and sustained ideology brew into the oils, the inks, and the mechanisms of creation? Not every video game has to be a difficult conversation. Balatro isn't an allegory for the human condition, of course, but they should be a conversation. On one hand, it is art that provokes the mind to assume these difficult conversations. On the other hand, games, and by extension, role-playing games, are widely disputed as an artistic medium. Games, in the way of art, are a fascinating example in that they surf the line between art and entertainment. What does this mean? Well, to offer my own answers, entertainment is communication that is meant to evoke emotions. Meanwhile, art is a communication meant to provoke ideas. The way video games surf the line is that they dance between playing Monopoly and reading Moby Dick. Mathematical mechanics and formulas, the quantities of a structure, are illustrated to form descriptions and conditions, the qualities of an existence. The difficulty of building a video game, of course, is limitations. Not everyone can design a house and build it. That's why, of course, they have an entire profession for what effectively amounts to the ideas guy. There's the construction workers, which create the measurements and lengths of the world, and there are the architects who design it. Just as the construction workers program and condition a game, the architects consider the abstractions of the mechanical process. After all, ideas are the embryonic cells of art. But not everyone is going to like your ideas, and not everyone is going to appreciate your conversations. As I began to write the blueprints of Newark as a tabletop role-playing game, I wanted a hybrid of power systems. There was, of course, the route of magic, casting spells, chanting patrons, and canting the lost souls of the damned. And so I thought to myself, simple game of rock, paper, scissors. Magic beats guns, guns beat melee, melee beats magic. Makes sense to me. Even if I wasn't a huge fan of games like Pokemon with hyper-simplified strengths and weaknesses, it was a helpful starting point for balancing. Then, with a group of eager playtesters, I ran the idea across on a Discord server. As my friend, Spartan of the Union, had eloquently put it, well, I mean, this is where magic classes would come in handy. If guns aren't dangerous, why have them at all? True. Guns need to be an oh shit moment. A one good roll and you're dead weapon. Meanwhile, magical classes could, say, turn bullets into flowers. This was actually very helpful because I was moving past simple systems in favor of logically thinking through the problem. In a world with missiles and magic, how do missiles win? And if missiles can win, how does magic win? As an artist, feedback is always a double-edged sword. On one hand, feedback can provide some necessary perspective to creating a more credible and considered piece. On the other hand, become too receptive and you can become paranoid. This is where personal judgment is most handy. Is it right to concede in regards to all reception, or do you need to pick your peers carefully?
When designing the combat system in Civilization Revolution, Sid Meier found himself up against some interesting design problems. His players didn't understand math. In Civilization Revolution, the strength of units were displayed upfront to players before battle to show the odds of victory. For example, an attacking unit might be rated at 1.5, with a defending unit at 0.5. This is a 3-to-1 situation. Unfortunately, the testers expected to win this battle every time, despite there being a 25% chance of losing each time.
In this instance, should Sid Meier make this rating system clearer to players? Maybe, but not for the reasons you might think. Game design is a game of intentions, and what you want to do with your product. Is Sid Meier trying to make an approachable real-time strategy game for the average consumer, or is he catering to a specific market? Certain approaches with either mindset have their strengths and weaknesses, but it's never black and white. Sometimes it's alright to throw a wedge in the average consumer's life. Sometimes it's alright to streamline mechanics that otherwise cater to a hardcore audience. With Newark as a project, I wanted it to be a funhouse mirror of the real world. Added with that, I wanted it to have a double appeal. To the historians, the thinkers, and the people having to eke their way through living. And the players, the gamers, the experts of the genre that want to take a different approach. But in order to teeter the line of these entendres of appeal, I would have to weigh my options carefully. Should guns realistically have an early game presence? What is the absolute limits of magic in this world, be it extrasensory perception, ESP, or arcane art? Can a guy with a big wooden club fight God and win? Then again, would people want to fight God with a big wooden club and win? I certainly would. Would anyone want to play this shitty concept? How am I supposed to get people to play this terrible game? What am I supposed to do? How does anyone find the will to play a game knowing it might be a complete waste of time? These, of course, are all normal thoughts that a game developer would have. In fact, they should question themselves. No conversation between art and audience, or art and artists, is without questions and answers. But how do you give yourself answers? That's for you to find out.